I never imagined that taking what seemed like a no-big-deal job could flip my life upside down. Just a couple of weeks after finishing college and seriously not knowing where I was headed, I got a job offer at the Pines Motel. It was a small, run-down place that sat lonely on the outskirts of town. I needed cash in hand, and the pay was decent, so without thinking too much, I took the gig. Little did I know, my decision would plunge me into experiences that I still struggle to wrap my head around even now. The first day on the job was a bit surreal. I rolled up to the motel as the sun was setting, and honestly, it didn't look like anything special. It was this old, two-story structure with a faded sign that read, Pines Motel, and the parking lot kinda disappeared into the dark. I remember feeling a little chill, but I just chalked it up to nerves. The manager, a quiet guy named Mr. Harlan, greeted me with a nod. He had a faint smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, like he was holding on to some heavy secrets. He gave me a set of keys and said in a low voice, "Watch your steps. This place has its own way of doing things." I remember thanking him, completely oblivious to what that really meant. That very night, I started my shift. My duties were pretty simple: check the rooms, keep things in order, and field any strange phone calls that might ring through to the front desk. The hallways were lit just enough to make out where I was going, with a few flickering bulbs, and each of my footsteps echoed through the silence. I began my rounds, feeling pretty confident until I reached room 8. Room 8 was, well, unusual from the get-go. The door was cracked open and I could hear this soft humming coming from inside. I knocked but got no reply. The humming just grew louder as I pushed the door open. The room was empty except for an old radio sitting on a small table, playing a poorly tuned station. I turned it off, feeling a bit creeped out, and left the room with an uneasy feeling clinging to me. I just had this gut feeling that I wasn't really alone there, even though clearly no one was around. As the nights went by, the weird stuff kicked into high gear. I'd get phone calls on that silent line with nothing but dead air, just a bit of static that would morph into whispers I couldn't make out. Sometimes I'd catch something moving in my peripheral vision in those dark hallways. At first, I brushed it off as my imagination, but things kept getting weirder. One night, as I was walking back from checking rooms, I noticed that one of the corridors seemed to stretch on longer than I remembered. The lights flickered like they had a mind of their own, and the air felt almost alive, like it was watching me. I took a deep breath, pushing myself to keep going. But then I heard a soft knock coming from one of the closed doors. It was gentle but persistent, almost rhythmic, like someone was trying to get my attention. I approached room 12, opened the door cautiously, and everything seemed normal until I spotted a small note on the bed that read, "Don't trust the night." My heart raced as I scanned the room for anyone who might have left it, but of course it was empty. I left the note behind and quickly exited, wondering if this whole thing was a mean prank. The next day, I couldn't help myself. I asked Mr. Harlan about the note, but all he did was shake his head and say, "This place carries old voices." That didn't exactly soothe my growing fears. That evening, as I was checking the security cameras behind the front desk, something made me freeze. On one of the screens, I spotted a shadow dart across a hallway I hadn't even walked down yet. It moved too quickly to be a regular person, but its presence felt eerily human. I rewound the footage a few times, trying to catch another glimpse, but it had vanished just like that. With every shift, the tension built up more and more. I couldn't keep ignoring it because I had bills to pay, and jobs like this were hard to come by. I decided I'd tough it out till I found something else, but I started jotting down every strange occurrence in a little journal. Every weird noise, every odd call, everything. While rummaging through an old dusty drawer, I found a crumpled newspaper article that detailed the motel's long, twisted history. Apparently, over 50 years ago, a number of guests went missing without a trace. Locals whispered about the place being cursed, suggesting that its walls were haunted by those who had never left. I wasn't sure if curses were real, but the more odd stuff I faced, the more I began to have my doubts. Then came the night that flipped everything. It was a cold, moonless evening, and the storm outside was starting to roll in. I was doing my rounds when I heard this loud thump coming from somewhere deep into the building. My heart raced as I followed the noise to what I assumed was an empty storage room. The door creaked as I opened it, flashlight shaking in my hand. In the dim light, I saw old filing cabinets and boxes gathering dust. Suddenly, one of the cabinets creaked open on its own, giving me a scare. Inside, I found a hidden stash of old photos and letters. My skin crawled when I noticed one picture, fading, showing a family smiling from years gone by. Written on the back, it read, "Never leave." A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the storm. The light suddenly started flickering rapidly, and I caught a glimpse of something moving behind me in the mirror of the filing cabinet. I turned around slowly, but again, nothing was there. Panic took over and I bolted back into the hallway, but everything felt different. The familiar path seemed to twist away from me, like the building was trying to trap me. I finally burst through a side door I hoped would lead outside, but it dropped me into a narrow hallway I didn't remember. In that corridor, the vibe was totally off. The air felt thick, each step echoing like a drum beat. It was unsettling. Eventually, I found a door marked "Employees Only." With no better option, I pushed it open and found myself in a cramped break room. I collapsed into a dusty chair to catch my breath, but just then, the door slammed shut behind me. I felt my heart race as I struggled with the lock, but it wouldn't budge. Then I heard this soft, almost melodic hum coming from the walls. It got louder and louder, almost drowning me with its presence. At the far corner, I could see a small, ancient radio that seemed to turn on by itself, playing a simple tune like a lullaby, but every note felt heavy, mixed with sorrow and warning. Time lost all meaning as I huddled in that room, quaking until finally the door swung open on its own. I didn't wait to check who or what was there. I bolted back out into the stormy night, dizzy from everything that had happened. I went home, totally convinced I'd quit the job in the morning. But when dawn broke, I found myself tossing and turning in bed, rehashing all those events. One thought led to another, and suddenly, I was curious about the motel's past. If it was cursed, why? Who cursed it? How come I made it through all the craziness? I pondered if maybe some lost soul was just trying to reach out to me. I even questioned if I had a duty to solve whatever had happened there. My thinking was, if whatever it was wanted to harm me, it already could have, right? I just needed courage to see it through, to face whatever happened next. Looking back though, I definitely should have watched fewer horror movies. It might have saved me from going back. In the days that followed, things got even weirder. I started noticing patterns with the unsettling events each night. There was a soft knock on my door, whispers in empty rooms, and that same creepy message, "Don't trust the night," showed up in different ways, scratched into mirrors, carried by the wind, even creeping into my dreams. I tried to share this with Mr. Harlan, but he just looked at me like I was crazy and replied, "The motel takes its toll on all of us sooner or later." One night, I decided enough was enough. I stayed late and wandered the halls with just my journal and flashlight. That's when I stumbled on a door I'd never seen before, no number, with a heavy lock that seemed so out of place. Something in my gut told me this was where all the answers lay. I fiddled with my hairpins and managed to pick the lock. Inside, a small, dark room welcomed me, stacked with old letters, diaries, and photographs. It was like finding a hidden chapter of the motel's history. As I flipped through the papers, one name kept coming up: Alice. She had worked at the motel and wrote about a horrible night when everything turned upside down, about losing power, whispers echoing through the halls, and guests disappearing right in front of her. Her last entry made my skin crawl. She mentioned being followed by a shadow, something that wanted something from her, something she couldn't give. The last line was scrawled in shaky handwriting: "I fear I am already part of this place." That thought hit me like a brick. Was I getting pulled into the same trap that had taken so many before me? That night, while chilling in the hidden room, a noise jolted me from my thoughts. A soft shuffle behind a stack of boxes. I spun around to find a figure, the outline of a woman, her eyes full of sadness. She didn't say a word, but there was something about her eyes, like she was begging for help. I didn't know if she was a ghost or just a memory of the motel's past, but in that moment, we shared this strange bond. I quietly followed her as she glided through the narrow hallway, urging me deeper into the motel's mystery. As we journeyed further, the building felt even stranger. The walls whispered secrets, and the floorboards creaked in a rhythm I couldn't ignore. But suddenly, she vanished. I was at the reception all night, trying not to think too much about her. I began to wonder if she had been Alice. Then came the memory I'll never shake. One stormy night, as I was wrapping up after my shift, I picked up a call on that old phone at the front desk. The line crackled with static, but I could make out a voice, soft and desperate. "Help me, please." I asked who it was, and she whispered back, "Alice." I froze, heart racing as she repeated her desperate plea, "In basement," before the line went dead. A mix of fear and determination kicked in. I grabbed my keys and headed toward the back of the motel, recalling there was an old maintenance area. The dark corridors echoed my frantic footsteps as I searched for the source of the call. Finally, I found the door marked basement. Heart pounding, I pushed it open and descended a rickety staircase into an area that smelled damp and rotten. In the basement, I found a narrow corridor lined with old lockers and machinery that felt ages old. The air felt thick, like I was being watched. At the end of the hall, a door was slightly ajar. Through the crack, I could see a faint light. I nudged it open and stepped inside a small storage space cluttered with boxes, tools, and scattered photos. One of the boxes had Alice's name on it, and my heart raced. This was her hideaway, holding pieces of her life. In the center lay an old diary, worn and leather-bound. As I opened it with shaky hands, I found entries detailing her final days at the motel, her growing fear, the strange happenings, the feeling that the place was more than just bricks and mortar, and her attempts to escape. But as I read the last entry, the lights started to flicker, and I could feel a chill crawling up my spine as if someone were there with me. I turned around and briefly saw Alice's ghostly figure, pale, with sorrowful eyes and a gentle smile, almost saying, "I'm sorry." That moment hit me hard. I realized she was trapped there like so many others, and now she was reaching out to me. The lights went out completely, plunging me into darkness. I fumbled for my flashlight, but when it flickered to life, the diary was gone, and so was any trace of Alice. Instead, I heard soft laughter echoing through the basement, mixed with the distant sound of that chilling lullaby. I sprinted for the door, but as I made my way up the stairs, it felt like they looped forever. Just when I thought I'd make it, a voice boomed, "Stop!" Fearful, I froze, not wanting to turn around, fearing what I might see. But then, laughter echoed around me, and before I knew it, I woke up on the reception floor. It was nearly 6 a.m. That morning, my mind was made. I quit, driving away from that dark silhouette in my rearview mirror. Even now, memories of that place send chills down my spine. The motel isn't just a structure. It's like a trap where time collides, where lost souls wander and secrets linger. I keep my journal as a reminder of what I went through, a warning. Some doors, once opened, can never close. That night still haunts me. Alice's voice echoes in my dreams, and it feels like the motel is always there, waiting for its next victim. I can't help but wonder about Mr. Harlan's role in all of this. But if there's anything I learned, it's that some mysteries need to stay buried, and some places are best left untouched.